Goody. There's no greater wisdom than kindness. Now, this is a notion that I didn't come to terms with until I was about 30 years old, about 30 years ago. Just got off a plane yesterday from New Mexico. That's where my wife and I live. But I was born and raised in Jackson Heights. I'm a product of 88th Street and Roosevelt Avenue, if anybody knows from that neighborhood. Elmhurst. And what I've discovered in my walk is pretty simple. Well, I'll make it as simple as I can. That the newborn reflects all the wisdom I aspire to. And I know, looking into their eyes, there's not one notion in Fortress Skull. I got no idea what's going on. But the vibe coming off that little one's heart embraces every molecule of creation. Now, it just so happens that where I come from and how I come up, there was a lot of fear running rampant in my house. And it's what almost laughingly referred to as dysfunctional today. My mother died from a chronic disease by the time I was 13. She went out in ugly inches, you know. So that was the downside. The upside was that left my father and I. My father today still is my hero. He's no longer with us by about 20 years. But he showed me what a life of compassion was about rather than telling me what was going on. My upbringing at school, my upbringing through the adults, through everything I saw. I mean, I didn't know what everybody was getting in line for. I didn't know what the cool movies were. I didn't know what the hip TV show was or any of that jazz. And so as a result, in order to protect myself, I left the universal gift of my heart and went up into Fortress Skull, pulled up the drawbridge, figuring you'll never catch me up here. Thanks very much. Thanks for trying. My dad just loved me all through that. By the time I'm like 15, I'd seen a movie, an old black and white movie on $1 Million movie, I think it was, you know. And all the guys were like in tuxedos, and all the women were beautiful, and the ballroom dancing was going on. And one of the guys, I think it was Cary Grant, said a little something that I just thought was very mature. And I couldn't wait to tell that to my dad. I was going to claim this line as it was my own. So the young man comes home from work, and as his want, he would go right to the kitchen sink and make a bromo, you know, and he'd got like 2 glasses going, and he'd be juggling that and throw it down, get rid of a little of the anxiety of the day. By that time he looks up, I'm leaning on the refrigerator in my most casual pose, and I says, you know, Pop, if it ain't one thing, it's another. I had no idea what that meant. But I was profiling. And the old guy just adjusted his glasses and he says, "Kid, you still don't get it. It's the same thing, over and over. Your fear, magnified by your ego, creates all your dilemmas." And I said, "Well, yeah, I was going to say that next." I was out surfing for about another 25 years before it occurred to me what I thought. It was about that time when I realized that in fact I was a liar. And I never realized what a liar I was until I eavesdropped and listened in on one of my own conversations. And I realized I didn't believe a word of what I was saying. I think I was talking to Ray Rodriguez, you know. But he was buying it. People that we were socializing with, they were buying it. So I took this to be credentials, you know, a social skill, if you will. I won't call you on your bullshit. Don't you call me on my bullshit, and we'll talk about who's not here. Served me well for a while. But like I said, I've been living life from the neck up. Down in here, you know, you asked me how I felt, and the response was, da-da-da-da-da-da. Fine. Who knew how I felt? I began to run out of gas in Cleveland, Ohio. And I had read somewhere that Buddhism was about internal work. And I couldn't reconcile the pain and the hostility and the nonsense and the insanity and the lying every time I opened my mouth. And so I thought maybe, well, I'll give this a shot. And so I went down to the spiritual bookstore and I got myself a book. I couldn't wait to get into it, which I did. And by about page 3, I noticed that I hadn't been levitating and the sky hadn't opened up. And I heard no trumpets and there was no flashing light. So I realized I had bought the wrong book. And put it on the shelf. Well, what was going on for me is I always had this feeling, and I had it for like 15, 20 years, like my fly was always open spiritually, and I didn't know how to stand. I didn't know quite how to get comfortable, you know. The toughest job I ever had in my life up until today is acting casual. Hi, good to see you. I got 33 cents in my pocket, and I want to pretend I'm Elvis. You? Took too much energy, much too much energy. So after a couple of weeks after that first book, I'm right back in the same place, only my temples are pounding a little heavier. And I go back to the same place, the same bookstore, in an effort to find the proper volume, which I did. And I went home, and it's the same thing. After about 3 or 4 pages, wow, I'm confused, I'm hurting. What are they talking about? Obviously not for me. Volume number 2 on the shelf. After about 6, 8 months of this jazz, every couple of weeks, I'm buying another book. I got like 15 or 20 books sitting on the shelf. They're pristine, you know, nothing's happened past page 5 in any one of them. So if you would ask me what Buddhism is all about, I would just tell you, it's not for me. It don't work for me. Street hitter from Jackson Heights. What do I know from Buddhism? All right, so fast forward to when I'm really hurting and I'm desperate, and it occurs to me that I've got a small library at home. It could very well be the key that maybe I was resisting the very thing that was going to set me free. That if those books had made sense, it would be only because they were echoing back to me what was already in my head, and what was in my head wasn't delivering me to anywhere I wanted to be. So I was going to need some new information, and I was going to have to get enthusiastic about it. I was going to have to participate with it. See, I come from a place where if I'm not going to be the number one guy or the number two guy, I ain't going. Somebody was talking about poker with Master Lee. And yeah, if I wasn't going to be the best poker player at the table, I'm not sitting down. If I'm not going to be a starting fullback, I ain't playing. That kind of jazz. Then all I have to do is pretend I don't care. Strategy. Of course, I'm walking around with a broken heart that would kill 9 people. So sure enough, I got involved in meditation. I came to find out that being confused and feeling like a visitor on this planet was not only okay, but it was positively required if you wanted to change. But then I got to a chapter that talks about community. And I said, well, maybe there's a Buddhist temple around here somewhere. So I went right to the yellow pages. Sure as heck, Cleveland Buddhist temple, right down on Euclid. Hello. Just parenthetically, one day I was talking with Sensei about I'm sitting and I'm being Irish and they're blowing up Ireland every time I turn on the television, and I sit down and want me to be meditating for peace, and I'm giving that the best shot I got, and Lebanon is in flames, and then when that's not grabbing me, I got nothing in my head but static. And this little Japanese fellow looked at me and he says, so what's wrong with the static? I don't know. Expectations. I'm supposed to be levitating. Still, I know what enlightenment is going to be, and this ain't it. Maybe not. So, my father was the one that would hit me with this, there's no greater wisdom than kindness. And occasionally he'd mention that to me, but I watched him live that. Most loving individual I've ever been around. And lately in New Mexico, where I'm living, my first television hero is now on TV again in black and white. Dobie Gillis, and that's not Dobie, it's Maynard, all right? Maynard G. Krebs. And there's an episode the other day where Maynard they're in class in school, and Maynard breaks out of, what is that? And it's a transistor radio, he says, and it's about the size of a loaf of bread, And then he's got an earpiece he puts in his, and he says to Dobie and the guys that are hanging out, he says, well, I'm the only one that can hear this, and the teacher will never figure this out. And so he turns it on, and like only Maynard could, he's like tapping the desk. Just jazzing out. About that time, the teacher comes in the room, and without any hesitation whatsoever, walks right over to Maynard, and he's talking to the class, and he pops the earpiece out, and he takes the radio and he wraps it up and he puts it on his desk. And Maynard's still. And I said, exactly. How many times did I use radios in fast cars and knives to give me permission to be who I wanted to be? And he unplugged Maynard and he wasn't phased even a little bit. Just kept rocking. So the walk with Buddhism is, in a nutshell, taught me a lot. And it's got me to the place where I realized that the shortest distance between 2 points is an altered perspective. That I'm here to learn from you, whether you're a king, you're a prisoner, you're a clown, that I might as well enjoy the ride, because ultimately we're we're all from out of town, you know? Yeah, right on. And that there is no greater wisdom than kindness. Thanks, Pop.
They've invented this form called a Rothko, which you've got to do by standing in front of a Rothko painting. And then you see, oh, and you got to stand there a long time. And Alice Notley taught me this trick. She said, I said, I don't want to. And she said, you just got to stand there until it happens. And it does. You got to take her word for it, right? And you know, there's this, like, it floats there, you know what I'm talking about? And there's 3 colors. So here's the poetic form. Duh. It's 3 lines. And there's 3 words in each line, okay? And the 3 of those 9 words are colors. And as the final move, here it is. You ready? The 3 colors do a tic-tac-toe, either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. Okay, tell me about it. I think it's perfect. I think it's right up there with the sonnet. You know? Here it comes. Brought to mind, groove, tangerine, joy, thrash, ebony, perfect, outside, lime, nothing. It's a Rothko, by God. All right, there you go. I'm trying to find what it really works. Okay, life swirl. Orange, drop, forgot. Rock, purple, curled, rest of yellow. Okay, that's enough for you guys.
Born to be wild. Do ba do 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 ba do ba do do ba do 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 ba do ba do. Get your motor running. Do do ba do do. Headed on the highway. Do do ba do do. Looking for adventure. Do do ba do do. And whatever comes our way. Do do ba do do. Yeah, darling, gonna make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. I'll smoke and lightning. Smoke, lightning, heavy metal thunder. Do-do-ba-do-do. Racing with the wind. Do-do-ba-do. And the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, darling, gonna make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child. We were born to be wild. We could climb so high, I'm never gonna die. Born to be wild. Ooh, born to be wild. Do ba do 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 ba do ba do do ba do do ba do ba do ba do. Get your motor running. Do do ba do do. Headed on the highway. Do do ba do do. Looking for adventure. Do do ba do do. And whatever comes our way. Do do ba do do. Yeah, darling, gonna make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode to space. Like a true nature's child. We were born to be wild. We could climb so high, I'm never gonna die. Born to be wild.
John Snowden's been pardoned. Who's gonna help me find him? Deep in Sending news to the ones he loves best. Mail the letter to his last known address. John Snowden's been pardoned. Who's gonna tell him? The unmowed grass on his unmarked grave, the butterflies floating, heavy with nectar. Send the news to the ones he loves best. Mail the letter to his last known address. John Snowden's been pardoned. Who will say we're sorry? Maryland then ain't Maryland now. A white girl's dress was a black man's burden. Send the news to the ones he loves best. Mail the letter to his last known address. John Snowden's been pardoned. His hard times are over. A black man dead since 1919. A free man now. He's a free man now. Send the news to the ones he loves best. Mail the letter to his last known address. John Snowden's been pardoned, the insult forgiven. The technicality of his wandering eye, the skin that couldn't hold his alibi. Send the news to the ones he loves best. Mail the letter to his last known address.
No one respects the slave unless he's played by Morgan Freeman. And no one respects a Nazi unless he's played by Ray Fiennes. And no one respects a queer unless he's played by Tom Hanks. And no one respects an Indian or a Jew unless he's played by Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley. Saying that no one respects an Indian or a you. Unless they play by Ben Kingsley. A one, two, three, four. And no one respects the fat man unless it's played by John Goodman. And no one respects a retard unless it's played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And no one respects a woman unless she's played by... And no one respects an Indian under two unless they're played by Ben Kingsley. Unless they're played by Ben